Hi, welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts. Hey, Mandy, how are you?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm back in the saddle working again after a really exciting travel home from the Become conference.
Yeah. I wish that you could have stayed longer, but I'm so glad that you could be here for it. It was a great few days. I
It
loved every
really
second of
was.
it.
It
Mhm.
was. I was very excited. We talked about this several times on the podcast leading up to the conference of I didn't expect to know anyone.
Mhm.
I'm going to Missouri. I don't know people in Missouri. I'm gonna have Mandy. It's gonna be great. And it was so cool to get to meet people, whether they were, clients that we worked with in the past or guests we've had on the podcast, like so many people that I was like, hey, I like probably, I'm gonna say 15 to 20 people
Mhm.
that either sought me out or I saw from across the room and was like, Mandy, why do I know that person? I know that person. And then I would eventually get to talk to them. And I shouldn't have been so surprised. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
shouldn't have been
I
surprised, but I
You
was,
knew
and it
about
was
a
so
couple
cool.
people. Yeah, you
Yeah,
knew about a couple people that you were going to meet but yeah, I didn't expect because obviously I don't know who all's going to the conference. This is
right?
something that a lot of our network goes to because it's
Mhm.
amazing, but I didn't realize how many people you were going to know. And I didn't realize how many people are either listeners or they see our clips on social media.
Yeah.
And so seeing us together, they're like, I know you,
Yeah,
And I
even people
was
I
like,
didn't know were like,
yeah,
"That's why I know you because you're on the
yes,
podcast with Mandy." And I'm
yes.
like,
Mhm.
"Wow, okay.
Yeah, it just shows
That's
you
so
how
cool."
the
Yeah.
reach, that you
Yeah.
have from Texas
Well,
to all of these
I felt
wonderful
like a
women.
celebrity for sure.
Yes.
I was like, "People know me."
Yeah,
It
they
really
did.
wasn't like that, but at the
But
same
yeah,
time,
but
it
it
was super
was,
cool.
they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm meeting you for the first time in person." And when not everyone knows how we do business, but if you do a website with us, let's say, you're going to meet me or already know me.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're going to get on a Zoom with Mandy, and then you're going to get on maybe two more, some calls, whatever.
Mhm.
And so you don't like get to know each other perfectly, but it's
Yeah.
it's interesting that they're like, "Oh my gosh." And you're like, "I've seen that person once. I can't remember who it is."
It's like,
But
I know that face, and I'm like,
mm,
"Oh, because I put a ton of pictures of you on your website, duh."
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I was glad to see that because that's just fun to meet the people who you've been working with all these
Yeah.
years. But yeah, super fun. I got to tell you, I was really impressed with Whitney Kenter. She was on the podcast a few months ago, maybe
Yeah.
a month or two ago, and she was a keynote at Become, and we got to know her pretty good on the podcast, but I was so excited to see her on stage and
Yeah.
to tell her more of the story that we didn't hear, and just wrapping it up in a bow to send you off with inspiration. She was pretty incredible. I was really glad about that. And then my other favorite parts were the breakouts. It's always,
That's what
and
I was
I
gonna
I
say.
knew, I knew that I was going to love them because I always do. Angel's great at picking who is going to bring the knowledge and
Yeah,
help
the
you through those
value.
workshops. And so we learned stuff. We learned stuff about stuff that we do. There was a
I
braving
know.
class, and
I
we
was
learned
like,
stuff about taking photos on
"Do
iPhones that
tell."
we didn't know. How is that possible? So I don't know, just so many good. I appreciate that I get the opportunity to go to Become every year. So, and I'm
Yeah,
glad you did too.
same. I will say the highlight, of course, was the master classes. The breakout sessions were
Mhm.
really great. They were long enough that they were impactful, but they weren't so long that it was like too much information to absorb
Mhm.
over, the course of the day, which is always a concern for me anyway, because I can walk away from those going, I can't. I need a week to process this stuff before I
Yeah.
can even think about what to apply. But I
Mhm.
really, really, really enjoyed Kelly Rissy. We've
Mhm.
had her on the podcast before, but her breakout session was so relatable and so powerful for me that I was like, wow, okay, there was some good stuff in there. So, if you didn't get a chance to come to the Become conference this year, definitely put it on your to-do list for 2027. It is well worth the time, it is worth the investment. You get so much more out of it than you expect.
Mhm.
It's big enough but it's also small enough. It's intimate enough that there's like actually real connection that's happening. Like,
Mhm.
I really enjoyed getting to spend what I would consider a good amount of time with Angel, being
Mhm.
the one to put on this whole thing and then actually get to have a real conversation with that person at
Mhm.
the conference that they are facilitating. I
Mhm.
didn't see that coming, but I very much enjoyed that as well. So kudos all around.
Yeah. Yeah, big round of applause for everyone who put that on.
Yeah.
Mostly Angel though, like, and we will
Mhm.
shout out Jeannie Strickland. She is an avid listener and we appreciate her, but she designed the entire look and just amazing, and she helps Angel with all sorts of things
Yeah.
too. But she has everything ready for next year, the whole design, and it was cool to see that rolled
Yeah.
out.
I love it.
And tickets are on sale for next year, and they're deeply discounted right now. They're like early bird for next year, so
Oh,
don't miss out.
so we should just
Yes.
get on it. I
Yeah,
love
we
it.
have to. We have to. It's deeply discounted.
I did also, before we move on and move away from this topic, I did want to bring to light the marketing panel that you were on.
It was fun.
It was fun to watch you, obviously, as a business partner with you. We are very like-minded when it comes to marketing and strategies and those, thoughts and opinions around the subject. But there were what, 6 people
I
on that
think
panel?
eight,
There were a
7.
lot of people up on a
Yes.
stage that are all involved in marketing in some way. And you could tell based on the questions that were asked and the looks on people's faces that there were a lot of potentially differing opinions. But what I really liked about it was even when somebody would answer a question and somebody else on the stage was like, it didn't feel condescending at
Mm-mm.
all or even contradictory. It was like another option is. And that's the way marketing really should be, because there's
Yeah.
not one way to
No.
to get it done. There's about a billion. You can
Mhm.
really go at it from a bunch of different angles, and to have that many experts that specialize so differently was
Mhm.
really cool to watch that collaboration rather than the my way is the best way kind of
Yeah.
attitude about things. It was really cool.
Absolutely. So I love all of the marketing ladies within Little Black Book because there's so much good knowledge.
Mhm.
There's so many different angles that people come from. There are so many different specialties, and some of us overlap in a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
right? Like we do blogs and email marketing and stuff that Kimberly does. She does some social media. She does, you know what I mean? But it was kind of, and some of them do video and we do video, but they do it on a different level. And then,
Yeah.
there's SEO and there's all, all different forms, and we overlap with a lot of people, and we all have different ways that we go about it, and nobody's wrong, right? Because
It's just your
it's
own
it's
niche.
subjective, right?
Mhm.
It's marketing is so creative that there are hard and fast rules about how you can place an ad on Meta, but there is not a hard and fast rule about what looks good in a design
Mhm.
or what works on social media. There are so many different ways to go about it, and they work different for everybody. And that's me going into a rabbit hole that we don't need to be in. All I'm saying is I completely respected, and we've done this before with
Mhm.
the marketing panel, and I respect these ladies so much. I could not just go up and do a whole marketing presentation and answer all those questions myself.
Right,
Like none of
because
us could, because there's so many different areas of marketing.
right,
So,
because we don't do all things marketing, and I
mhm.
don't think anybody on that stage does
No, everyone has
all
their
things.
their
Everybody kinda
niche.
has their
Mhm.
lane, and
Yep.
though they do intersect sometimes and overlap, it's all a little bit different, and so it was cool to hear different perspectives and get the, different answers to the same questions and see multiple perspectives and feel like you have options that are all good options, not that one person is cutting down another option.
Never,
It was very
never.
supportive. I loved that
Yeah,
environment.
there's no competition up there, and I loved that. One of the biggest things that I love is that all of these women are kind of living their truth, right? They have
Mhm.
figured out that this is the exact lane that they want to be in to love working every day. We had to figure that out for ourselves too. And it made us think about how much there were times where I'm like, I hate working. I wish I could be a stay at home mom, whatever the situation, because I just hate working. And it's like, maybe some people hate working, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I am too, I'm too fun. to work for a living,
Too
you know?
fun to be working all the time.
But I think most people probably don't hate working. If they like having something that's just for them, they don't hate working. They just haven't found exactly where their sweet spot is to where they work exactly like they're supposed to
Yeah.
align with their whole system. So that's what we want to talk about today. Maybe you don't hate working. Maybe you're just working wrong,
Yep. And
right?
conferences like become always, this is not the first time we've been to something like this, right? And coming out of something like that, I always came back on fire and inspired and ready to go at it, excited about getting back to work. And then it happened again. There's so many things that I'm really excited and focused on wanting to dive into, but it's not what I can do now. And I'm finding myself battling that same thing that I did in my corporate life where it was like I came back fired up about wanting to do all of these things that were going to make an impact or that were going to, structural changes in my world that needed to happen. And then you fall back into the rhythm of things where, sometimes it's doing parts of the job that have to be done, but they're not the parts of the job that are really lighting you up, or you're feeling handcuffed because of the calendar because you're not completely in control of your time. And then it sucks you right back into that same rhythm and routine. So coming out of this one in this conversation is probably going to be a good catalyst for that. That is where I want to kind of break that cycle, is take that momentum and do something with it, put it into action. And rather than just having another episode where we come on and we can bitch about our corporate experience and where we went wrong and all the things, there's a lot of people still in it. And I think that there's a lot of people that belong in it. We need people in that. Corporate is not the devil. So what do you do to enjoy the work that you're doing when it's not the work that you hate, right? Maybe it's the way that you have to do the work, or it's, the parts of the job that aren't as fulfilling. Like, what can you change? What are you actually in control of? So I'm excited about diving into that aspect of things because I really truly believe, in retrospect, looking back, a lot of the problems that we had in our corporate world, we had more power to change than we gave credit for.
Yeah, yeah,
It
and
could have been
it's a
different.
mindset switch of, I need to look at this from a whole different angle, and I need to not be part of the problem, and I need to get over, possibly, or take control, my lack of control. I think that was probably where I got the most resistance from myself, was that I had such a lack of control of what things looked like, of what I was able to accomplish. And it's when your schedule is dictated by meetings,
Mm-hmm.
when you
Meetings that are
don't
set
have,
by somebody else and they're not negotiable for you.
yeah, when you don't have control of your time. That is, I think, what probably made it hard every single day for me.
Yeah.
So I want to figure out, for anybody else who's going through that, like, how do you manage that? Because you want to stick around, you like most parts of your job, but there are a lot of parts that are making you go, I hate working, I hate doing this.
Yeah. And, some of the things that you're talking about, I'm immediately coming up with solutions. And I say coming up with them like I wasn't told this a million times along the way. I think one of the most important things that we didn't get right was protecting our calendar,
Mhm.
protecting our time. We weren't always in control of what meetings we had to be at or what conference calls we had to be on and those sort of things, but we were in control of how we scheduled our time around those things and the priorities of, whose first priority is the most important first priority.
Mhm.
And it was never ours.
Mhm.
One of the things that I wish I'd done a better job at is blocking out focus time.
Mhm.
I'm terrible at that even now. If I'm
Mhm.
in the middle of something that I really want to just like bust out a few hours worth of work on, if my phone rings and somebody needs something from me, it is physically almost impossible for me not to stop what I'm doing and help that person with what they need right now,
And
especially if
everybody
it is somewhat important.
Everybody who's been listening to us for a while is like, Mandy, we know. We've talked
Probably.
about this problem over and over, because it's the people pleaser.
Mhm.
That's what it is. It's the people pleaser in both of us. And so we've got the high achiever, right? That's an issue and why people hate working. If you're a high achiever, you probably hate working sometimes because it's never enough.
Yeah.
And then you put the people pleaser in there and you're doing this to yourself because nobody said, I need an answer within 30 minutes every single time that I need something from you. No
Yep.
one said that to us, right? So I think we're already solving problems, at least the problems that we had. And I think that a lot of
Yeah.
people probably are like, yeah, that's probably my problem too. How do we look at this from a 10,000-foot view and go, we have to police ourselves. We have to say, when I'm on this time block, I'm on do not disturb.
Yeah.
I can get back to them in 2 hours. Nothing's
Mhm.
burning down during that time. And the same with the same with any other issues that we ran into like that. It was all you have to block out the people pleaser because no one is going to be less happy with you because you got the work done 3 hours later.
Yeah. I think, just to sum that up, taking ownership of your own time,
Mhm.
protecting specific parts of your day. Had I been smarter, if I were smarter, maybe even now, I think I
Mhm.
do a better job of this now. There are things that I could have done to make sure that I had a consistent first hour of my workday, to wrap my head around what that looks like, get organized, feel like I'm in control of it, and then get the
Mhm.
day started.
Yep.
We have developed routines and systems around that in our world now that have greatly improved, I think, not just my productivity, but what it feels like, what the to-do list feels like in my brain. It doesn't
Mhm.
just feel like there's all these things that have to be done that are just flying around. Like every morning it's like, all right, how you doing? My workday starts with a phone call with Mandy and we're going to enjoy that time, but before we come out of that time, we're going to come out of it with, all right, here's what the day looks like. Here's what we're going to get done. And it's motivating to go get started on it because you know exactly what to do. You know the order to do it in. You know the time you have to do it in. And then the phone rings.
Right, but
And then
then
things
all you
get
have to
derailed, and you
yeah.
just have to have those personal boundaries
Mhm.
of maybe it even looks like time blocking that in the day. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to return phone calls and reserve
Mhm.
that next hour to 2 hours to fight whatever fires came in the morning. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, there has to be something, but I think that specific thing, when I look at how things are handled now
Mm.
versus what I went through in corporate, it was when I feel out of control, it's because I had a plan and now the plan is changing. And there is almost nothing specifically in what we do now
Mhm.
in corporate, especially that couldn't be put on tomorrow's list, right? So that we keep our brain focused and I think that's something to
Yeah,
keep
something
thinking
we could
about.
continue to
You
improve
do need
upon for
to yeah,
sure.
you do need to return calls and things like that. So there needs to be time in the schedule for it, but the days where I feel out of control now are because I had a plan and then someone called and now the plan has to change and I did that. No one called me and said, "I have this marketing emergency, fix it now."
Mhm.
I said, "Ooh, that's more important to me. Ooh, that's what
Yep.
I want to work on instead." So,
That gets me too, where it's like, "Oh, the priority list today doesn't align with where I'm feeling inspired."
well, but that's another thing to think about, right? Because we do have to think about when we're making changes to make our job fit us better, we need to roll with what's important, what has to get done, what has deadlines, but what sits right with us in the moment. So, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I've talked to you about it. It makes almost no sense to me and my creative process to do websites in the morning. If I'm doing anything on a website, right? I'm building a website, I'm making changes to a website, it has to be in the afternoon or evening. And it's just the way that my brain is working during that time of day. But if I need to do social media stuff, like my brain is done with that sort of creativity by like noon. So I really need to be knocking all that stuff out. And it's so weird, right? But when you do creative stuff and some people, don't do anything creative, but when you do certain kinds of tasks, you have to be in the right headspace for it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I definitely am like that.
mhm,
I would say creatively, my brain comes alive probably about 11 AM.
mhm,
Like, We have our calls in the morning around 9, and I kind of slowly ease into, but I start to really hit stride, just
Mhm.
before lunchtime.
Mhm. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that if you have an unrealistic expectation of yourself that you have to be productive every single one of those hours, or somebody else has that expectation of you, there needs to be a conversation of,
Yeah.
listen, I'm going to get everything done. I need hard deadlines and I will get everything done, but I have to get it done in the time that makes the most sense for me.
Mhm.
That if I would have had that option based on what bosses were giving me or based on what I was pushing on myself in corporate, I could have liked it more.
Yeah. I think so too. And
Yeah.
so outside of the whole time situation and control of that, some of the things that held me up and made me not like my job is when I felt like what I was doing was meaningless or it was busy work.
Mhm.
Nothing made me want to die more than tracking things that somebody else had already tracked and putting all the tracking all together. It was important. There was a reason for it, but it didn't actually make an impact in really anyone's world. It was
Well,
like,
no, and you deprioritized it because you didn't see the value, and then it holds up a whole team, right?
yeah,
But I think that there's no perfect jobs.
no,
There
no.
aren't. But so let's just say that we had 8 people on our team here, and I was seeing that you were always skipping that one thing on the to-do list, because
Mhm.
you hate doing it, and I was seeing that that was the first thing that this other person knocked off their to-do list, right? Like, if as a company, you can be looking at these things and trying to get the very best out of people.
And lean into their strengths.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, because there was a time that I was like, all of you hated expense reports. All of you. Right. Like there wasn't, Sarah probably was fine with expense reports. Her brain works a little bit more like mine. But everybody was like putting it off, putting it off, putting it off.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I
why
don't
do you
care if my
hate
card
that?
works at all. I
Right.
don't want to
Like
do this
you
paperwork.
literally can't spend money, and now you're causing problems for future Mandy
Mhm.
because you are going to have to spend on your own card, and
Yep.
now you're gonna have to expense that and, like, quickly because you need to get a
'Cause I
refund
need
so
it
that you have the
refunded.
money.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did not hate them. My analytical brain, like, I need to use that some of every day. So I loved that part. It was checking things off a list. It was making sure that that was completely finished
Mhm.
and it felt very clean and cut and done. And you guys hated it. And I was like, I wish that my job could be doing this administrative stuff over some of the things that we did that caused me more stress. If they had let me, I tried to fix my job to be exactly what I needed. I really
Mhm.
did try. I tried with
Yeah.
our bosses to
You would have
make
done
this.
all of our expense reports.
I would have done expense reports for the whole freaking field team. I would have done 45 freaking expense reports every month, every 2 weeks, whatever.
Mhm.
And I would have loved every second of it. I would
I
have.
can't. That just hurt my heart,
I
like, a
know,
little
but
bit.
we all have different, you know what
Right,
I mean?
because we're
Like,
not built the
mhm,
same, and
right.
that's the whole point, right? Is
Mhm,
like, to your point, if there were 8 people on the team and you're seeing one person really not want to do this one thing, but somebody else is gonna get after it first, redistribute the duties and responsibilities to play
mhm,
the strengths of the team, you
mhm,
know? It does make sense, but I do think there's a difference between somebody who enjoys to do expense reports or wants to do that type of work and is like, "Ooh, yeah, I'll do yours too," and
mhm,
a person who's just flat ass responsible and got their shit done, right? I do mine and I do mine first to get it out of the way. I don't want that to be a reason that I have to do yours too, right? So that
mhm.
conversation and communication with
Well, for
leadership or
sure.
with your team is
Mhm,
like square one,
mhm,
have that conversation. These are the things that I really love to do. These are the things that I really don't love to do. And a
mhm,
great leader will know those things about their team and be able to realign what those roles and responsibilities look like to do what's best for everyone and play to everyone's strengths and happiness because
yeah,
nobody likes to do work that feels meaningless or that feels draining. If
mhm,
you could focus more of your time on the things that actually light you up, that
mhm.
make you feel like it matters, that give you some kind of satisfaction,
Mhm.
that changes your whole outlook because
Mhm.
it's not that you hate the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what I was getting at is just let's figure out when it makes sense how you
Mhm.
can align your job. Like I said, I tried to make it so I was working on projects, which is what I loved the most about the job. I was willing to take on everyone's expense reports. I was willing to take on all of the tracking for everyone, like just that sort of thing, because what was making me want to jump off a bridge was all the travel.
So, besides the calendar of it all and the time management of it all, one of the things that I think people in general, but I definitely know from personal experience that I struggled with was juggling all of the expectations, right? Feeling like you had to be on all the
Mm,
time. And being on for different people looked different, right? Like
mhm.
this set of expectations over here, I had to manage that when I'm like in this window, but then my windows shifted all the time to different people. And what my role actually looked like, depending on who my audience was at the time. And sometimes wearing multiple hats. Wearing multiple hats can be really, really exhausting where you feel like
Yeah.
you never get ahead, let alone keep up, right?
Right. But so, and I think that a lot of corporations do this. Ours did. We had a lot of bosses. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you have so much structure of that ladder, and the tentacles that come out of different teams, I think that that is necessary. You have to have levels of management when you
Mm-hmm.
have 50,000 employees. But if you can figure out how to have all of your expectations come from one place, that's helpful.
Or have all of your leaders agree on
Well,
what that
yes.
expectation is would help too.
Yes, but I think that that alone could have kept me longer, because
Yeah.
I was fighting every day to understand whose voice was not just the loudest, but the one that I had to
Actually,
listen to.
the
Mhm.
most important voice. Yeah, that was really, really hard. And I will say too, there were times where, based on necessity, and I understood it at the time, where there was a role or responsibility put on our plate that was like, this is not my expertise. I don't,
Mhm.
like hiring and recruiting and being part of that and utilizing some marketing avenues for, different purposes that really weren't in our
Yeah.
normal purview. That was exciting because I felt like I was learning, but then it was like, I already have a whole job to do and now I'm managing this part too. Like
Mhm.
it like kind of splits your focus a little bit. And then once again, it's like, okay, just another ball to keep in the air. And I'm
Mhm.
already juggling six. So
Mhm.
here we go.
Yeah, and I think that along with those expectations, but going along with what you're saying now, this is something that we struggle with in what we're doing right now too, of I'm going to go in this direction, but now I have to switch gears completely and go in this direction. And some people, and we like it, right? Like we like
Hmm.
doing different things. Like it would suck to do the exact same thing all day. That would be a whole different kind of stress that I don't want to deal with. But you have to figure out how to, in one day, switch gears less times. And
Yeah.
so in a company where we had, like I said, 50,000 employees or whatever, can you make these jobs a little less like this and a
Hmm.
little more like this?
Yeah.
If there's a way, depending on how you work too, some people are like, I would die if I was working on even just 3 different things in a day. But to get the most productivity and the least amount of stress for your employee, I would be an employee going, please help me. Please help me
Yeah.
go in just this one direction, at least per day. Right. It's not crazy to have different days look different and have to
Yeah.
have different skills. It's good to flex those muscles and
Hmm.
use them. A lot of things to make it so that you don't hate your job. You have to have a lot of conversations to make this happen.
Yeah. And I feel like, I have to be in something and like see it through to where I feel like that the time that I just devoted to it, there was something that came out of it and it was
Yep.
worthwhile. And when you do have to switch gears in the middle of a project and go to another project, that was advice that I was given from a leader where it was like, time block it. Spend an
Mhm.
hour on this and get as far as you can, and then spend an hour on this and get as far as you can. And that way, all of the projects or all of the
Yeah, they're
assignments, if
all
you will, that
moving.
you have from all these people. There's movement in every single one, and you're not really dropping a ball. And I'm like, but I'm not getting anywhere. And
Mhm.
I spend more time retraining my brain
Yes.
literally in the moment to get all the way
Yeah. It's
mentally
like,
into
let's
the
sit
next
on this and
subject.
go for 6 hours. The
Yeah,
things
can I
that
just work on this one thing for the day and then I'll
yeah.
focus on something else tomorrow?
And like I said, everybody's brain works different. Some people would be like just feeling so good that they move the needle on so many
Uh-huh.
different things in a day. And some people are like, I need to fucking finish something. Like
Something.
something has to be finished or else I feel worthless. And now I hate my job and
Yeah.
there's no reason to. Yeah, there's so many pieces of this and so much advice that we could give. But at the end of the day, I think, all of it leads back to figuring out what makes the most sense for you. But if you can get yourself to like look at it logically and go, what could I take away? What could I change? What could I add to make it so that I like doing this? Because not everyone
Mhm.
has the option to leave. Then let's try and work on that. And truly, if everyone did that, you can't make everyone happy, but you could probably get everybody in a lane that makes sense for them
Yeah.
and have a lot happier people.
Yeah, I would probably be fine doing a few things that I don't enjoy doing if the majority of it I really loved and I was a little bit more in control of how and when I got it accomplished
Mhm.
without feeling all of the pressure from different angles, for sure.
Yeah.
I think another thing that plays into effect here is the growth aspect of things. Like, effort doesn't always equal progress, right?
No.
You can try as hard as you want and you don't always get somewhere. And when you feel like you're spinning your wheels and it's not going anywhere, that is exhausting and
Mhm.
defeating. And when you start adding up those feelings, that's when you quit.
Mhm.
That's when you just
Yeah,
shut
or you
down.
quiet quit where you're just like,
Yeah,
"I'm not
where
putting
you
this
just shut
effort."
down. Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think that this was a double-edged sword for us because we were getting recognition for the things that we were doing,
Yeah.
but it was also the things that made us crazy. So I was taking on too much so that I could look good on the team and be
Yep.
promotable. I was running myself ragged to do those things. What ended up happening is I burned myself out because I raised my hand too many times.
Mhm.
What happened to you was that you would raise your hand and then you would love doing that so much more. And now
That I
everything
would
else
let all
goes to,
these other
yes,
things fall, absolutely.
right.
Yeah. I
Because,
wanted to trade tasks, not
yes,
pick up a new one.
yes. But that's just how two different people's brains work.
Mhm.
I think that they're both valid. If we both like, if you could have only been working on those big picture projects, you probably could have stayed there until retirement.
Forever.
Yes. And for me, I needed to cut out something that I hated about the job, which was the travel, truly.
Mhm.
And not all of it, but most of it. I needed to, that was what was like causing the stress that was like hate work, like dreading it. And if we could have put ourselves in those places and then the people who like were so passionate about coaching marketers, they could have been focused on that and someone else could have been doing the part where you are doing expense reports and you know what I mean, like it just there's so many ways that we could have consolidated and made
Yeah.
sure that everyone did the absolute best work instead of saying you're so good at this, you're not good at this part, but power through it
Yeah.
because it's part of the job. It's like, or we could all take the best parts of ourselves and create a new puzzle that works and everybody is here forever because they're all happy with exactly what they're doing. Because there were people on the team, the collective teams that we were on, there were people who would have fit every single slot.
Yeah. And to that point, like, I think if I were in charge of the structure of our department, or I will say the department within the department, the
Yeah.
field, I would have done things maybe a little bit differently. I think we could have had half as many marketing coaches that were
Hmm.
actually out in the field directly coaching marketers.
Hmm.
And then all of that other administrative stuff that actually supported those marketers that we were supporting,
Hmm.
that could have and maybe should have been a completely different role.
Yeah. And
What
if
they
anyone is
did was
listening, you should look at that
they
because you have big
combined
turnover.
yeah, they combined all of these things and said, "Okay, we're gonna give you a little bit of taste of all the things." There's a little bit to be appreciated in that, though.
Yeah, I got lots of
Like,
experience.
lots of
Yep.
experience, lots of growth. We got to work within other departments. I know a little bit more about hiring and recruiting and
Mhm.
compliance and things like that because of what we got to do working
Mhm.
with them. I know a heck of a lot more on the food side because of the way that we partner with our product coaches. I know a lot, like, there's benefits for sure, but it also left me feeling like every single nerve ending that I have was fried
Mhm.
because nothing was ever wrapped with a pretty red bow. You could never just get something done and feel like there was a job well done.
Well, but and that's the big problem, and that's why people think that they hate their job or that they hate work is because it's always associated with stress, pressure, exhaustion, and if everybody is in the correct lane, on the right seat on
Mhm.
the bus, if you will,
Yeah.
you don't have to feel that because when I was doing the parts of the job that I loved and still today, doing the parts of this business that I absolutely love, I feel fulfilled, I feel stress free. I feel amazing and like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in this world. But whenever I do the things in this business or in that job that that are not aligned with me in any way, I know that it's just a means to make money or whatever. I feel that stress. I feel the
Yeah.
pressure. It doesn't feel fun. And then I don't hate what I'm doing, but I
It just makes you
don't
wanna
know
do it
why.
less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why we're doing it. So I think that that's the number one thing that it makes me think of just how do you get rid of the stress? I think that that's the number one way that you don't hate working, that you don't hate your job is to get rid of
Yeah.
the stress.
But it comes back to, take control of what you can control, let go of what you can't.
Mhm.
Redefine what success and productivity looks like within the parameters of what you're controlling. But something else, and I think I did start getting better at this, not that it was always well received, but questioning the norms. Like, do I really need to be in this meeting?
Mhm.
Do I really need to stop what I'm doing right now and help you with this? Can
Mhm.
this wait till tomorrow? Really questioning what those norms look like instead of just automatically going with it because this is what we do. And then something else that greatly changed my life. And for me, it took leaving corporate, but I really don't think it had to. It's just the way that it happened for me is finding things that I love or engaging with things that I love outside of work to where
Mhm.
my fulfillment wasn't only coming from this job.
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
of that whole identity shift, it's like
Mhm.
I did that to myself, and when I was able to come out of that and, like, really, I always like to use the analogy of, like, I feel like I, like, took my box of my life and I dumped it out, and then I
Mhm.
picked all the pieces up off the floor and put them back in the box in the order that I wanted them to be in, and I left out the pieces that I didn't want to be there, and when you are able to do that and you're keeping the parts of yourself and the parts of your life and the parts of the way that you spend your time, the way that you want them in a way that feels really good and authentic to you, it doesn't matter that it's work.
Mhm.
It's work that I want to do and it's fulfilling and you're doing it for the right reasons and you're getting the right things out of it. And I
Mhm.
think we can all do that inside or outside of corporate. That is
Yeah.
not a corporate situation. That is a self discipline
Mhm.
practice that we are all responsible for as individuals.
And we've had this conversation before to try and figure out how to not make your career your entire focus. I think
Yeah.
that we have both done a lot better of a job balancing life and
Oh,
work.
yeah.
I mean, night and day. But in the situation that we were in, it was like, here are your friends. You know what I mean? Like, and they
Kind
were,
of. We
yeah,
were
but
like, yay, I need some.
yeah, but they were fun people. And
Yep.
we had so many opportunities to spend time with them and have experiences with them that we weren't having with our friends at home.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get wrapped up in not just I am letting me be my job, and my whole worth be about my career. That is and was a problem then, but I was also like, I don't really need anything outside of this. Like, they've got me stocked on everything that I need. Like, I've got the fun, I've got the friends, I've got the,
Yeah.
you know,
I have a whole life over
important.
here.
Yeah. And so to stay in the loop on everything, you're getting the FOMO and you're not missing out. And I think it is important if you go to work from 9 to 5 every single day of the week, it's important to enjoy the people that you're there with. But I loved what you said about putting things back in the order in which maybe they should be
Yeah.
priorities in your life. And I encourage everyone to think about that. Like, what are your priorities when your head is not stuck in the sand of your
Mhm.
job, when you're not dwelling on maybe the bad parts of your job? What does your life look like if you reorder things a little bit? Can that in itself relieve some of the pressure? I bet that it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And I think, going back to what I was saying earlier, this really is like a self-introspective thing that really has nothing to do with being inside or outside of corporate. But I do think that there is a time where you have to really look at yourself and go, okay, I've done all these things and my gut still says this isn't right. So
Mhm.
when is it time to leave?
Mhm.
And a couple of those things, if you have made those adjustments, tried to make those adjustments and nothing really changes, and you really feel misaligned with what you're doing or how you're doing it, if it's starting to affect your health in any way, physical, mental, if you're suffering, time to go. It's time to
Mhm.
figure it out. And if the environment is not supportive, like you really
Yeah,
need
a
to work
toxic
with and for
environment or
people,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
that
not
have your
fixable.
best interests at heart and are gonna understand when you have to go, "Hey, this isn't working for me."
Mhm.
And even maybe if you have that supportive environment, but the changes can't be made. I mean, these are all very individualistic situations to make that determination, but I think, being the corporate burnouts, you could very easily turn that into like, screw corporate. We hate corporate. Like, it's not like that. It's not like that. And it doesn't have to be like that.
No.
It depends on the lens that you're looking at it from. What it boils down to is what we do with the structure that we put ourselves in. And you have to determine if you were in a healthy structure or if you're not. And if you can affect change to make it work for you in a healthy way, great. Let's keep going. If not, maybe we find a new bus with a new
Mhm.
seat that we can
Yeah.
sit in.
Yeah, I agree. The weighing out let's figure out if these things can be changed. Some things are not
Mhm.
changeable, but if you can start to set boundaries around the structure of your job, the flexibility,
Yeah.
different things like that, that would allow you to like it again,
Mhm.
it's worth having the conversations. If you have
100%.
open-minded bosses and people who really want the best for you, but also their company, right? We don't want to be losing a bunch of
Right.
people. If you came to
Absolutely.
me and you're like, our structure doesn't work, I would say, okay, let's figure it out. Like, let's figure out how
Yeah.
we both win, where I get all the work from you and you can do it in whatever way makes sense for you.
Yeah.
The boss
But
who
if
is
you're gonna
close
take
to
that to
that,
the
yeah.
boss, take a solution. Don't just take a
Yes.
problem. Like, don't be that guy for sure. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I mean, this is a great conversation that I've enjoyed having because I feel like it is more solution focused than just flat bitching about work.
Hmm.
We all need to
Yeah.
just bitch sometimes, but
Hmm.
I also think that on the other side of that, you have to have a new mindset and an understanding of how you can get yourself out of the funk that you're in. And what I want people to take away from this is that you're not necessarily lazy. You're not necessarily unmotivated
Hmm.
and you're not broken. You just may be in the confines of something that you're misaligned with.
Hmm.
So let's focus on what we can change. And if you can't change the things that are going to make the biggest impact, then you make the bigger change and
Hmm.
find something new that is more aligned.
Absolutely. And just to kind of bring it back to what you were just saying, if the only thing that's making you feel good about your job is the bitching it out with your coworkers, if that's the bright spot, that is, you have to stop
Red
that now.
flag.
Yeah. Well, because again, like we spent too much time on that instead of trying to fix actual problems.
Hmm.
Please try and fix your problems.
Because we started to enjoy that. That was a bright spot. It was like, ooh, I have a 3-hour drive. Let's get on the phone and we're going to. And it was
Yeah.
like, who has the worst story of the day became a source of entertainment.
Well,
Terrible.
and again, when you're thinking about energy, if you're looking for bad things to share in the
You're
group
going to find
chat,
them.
yeah, you will see them all day long. So, if you can only put your energy towards taking back small pieces of the control,
Hmm.
right? And figuring out how you can be more productive to where you feel less stress and pressure. So many things like that. Just you have to figure that out, because I wish that someone had been like, let's just fix it. Let's not bitch about it
Yeah.
anymore. Let's just fix it. And I might have been able to figure things out. I don't know. I'm glad
Yeah.
that it happened the way that it did. I'm glad that I'm where I'm at, because this is where I'm supposed to be. I know
Yeah.
that. But if I hadn't had that same opportunity at that exact time, I would need to still be in corporate. I would need
Yeah.
to still be there, and I would have needed it to change drastically. So start to write down exactly what the problems are. Like, if this thing could change,
Yeah.
then I would have less stress. If this thing could change, I would be happier all the time. Like, if any of these things, like solutions, right? We need
Mhm.
solutions. If you can't see, and we did an episode about, are you burned out or are you just done? Those things were fixed. Would you like it again? If the
Yeah.
answer is no, then you're done.
Or if you have no solutions that you can if you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this," and I sit down and there's no way to fix this because I'm already past that point. You've
Mhm.
already answered your own questions.
Yeah. Oh, well, this was a good talk.
I know.
I loved
It's
it.
heavy stuff, but at the same time, like I said, I feel like we can just sit and complain about it or we can try to do something about it.
Mhm.
And I would really love for our listeners who are still in corporate, maybe, riding that fence of like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I would love to see those people make their very best effort to be there and be happy.
Mhm. And just try and make one small change,
Yeah.
you
Just
know?
little by
Something.
little, little by
Mhm.
little, because I do
Yeah.
think there is a way to be happy in the corporate world.
Absolutely.
We need it.
Absolutely. Take control of your life. Do it.
All right, girl.
Yeah.
Well, have a
It's a
good
good talk.
day and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right.